Chapter 3. Let's check it out. Too often, we overcome one resource limitation by stretching another. The effect overall can be likened to a rubber band that can stretch and then stretch some more. Frequently, our solution to local resource shortages is to transport the limited resource from an area where it is more abundant, or to manufacture alternatives using additional energy and other resources. While this process gives the impression of increasing abundance, like the rubber band that appears longer when stretched, continued expansion puts more tension on remaining resources. At the present time, our capacity for moving resources around and for powering industrial processes is enormous. But like the rubber band, there will be a point where further expansion will fail. Exercise 1. Computer programmers call annoying program errors bugs. When they're debugging, they're actually finding and fixing errors. Debugging can be a boost to creativity and a good way to come up with questions, because tiny annoyances are often symptoms of bigger problems. You can practice debugging by thinking of a product you use every day: your refrigerator, your toothbrush, your car keys, even your bathroom toilet. Now, write down every disadvantage you can think of. The product's flaws don't all have to make sense. Be unreasonable. Be unfair. Go on the attack. My toilet occasionally overflows. The seat is always up or down at the wrong time. It's cold in winter. Sitting there is boring. The flush is so loud, it's embarrassing. Once you have a list, think of ways to get rid of the bugs in order to make the product more efficient or more pleasant to use. Exercise 2. We see the effects of lack of knowledge on creative performance every day, when people come up with ideas that are original for them but that nevertheless have been thought of before. A strikingly pitiful case of this phenomenon is that of the Indian mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan, considered one of the most brilliant mathematical thinkers ever. Because of his lack of contact with the outside world, he unknowingly spent much of his lifetime independently rediscovering much of what was already known in Western mathematics. Had he first gained a broad perspective of his field, he could have avoided this amazing yet useless career, and instead turned his considerable talents to advancing, not rehashing the mathematical knowledge base. Exercise 3. If you tend to undervalue yourself, you are almost certainly applying double standards. Underrating yourself just because you are you and not someone else. If you do value yourself less than you value other people, ask yourself why. Is this fair? If you look at yourself from outside, as if you were someone else examining you as you are now, would you think differently? Are you downgrading your view of yourself just because it is you? Do you have one standard for others and a higher standard for yourself? If you do apply these double standards, you are constantly undermining yourself. It is like trying to build a house on top of a swamp. The house will not last, and its foundations will be constantly eroded. Exercise 4. Many scientists look on chemistry and physics as ideal models of what psychology should be like. After all, the atoms in the brain are subject to the same all-inclusive physical laws that govern every other form of matter. Then can we also explain what our brains actually do entirely in terms of those same basic principles? The answer is no, simply because even if we understood how each of our billions of brain cells works separately, this would not tell us how the brain works as an agency. The laws of thought depend not only upon the properties of those brain cells, but also on how they are connected. And these connections are established not by the basic general laws of physics, but by the particular arrangements of the millions of bits of information in our inherited genes. To be sure, general laws apply to everything, but for that very reason, they can rarely explain anything in particular.